hear this again because they might be separate videos. I'm not entirely sure yet. Mm, I will be ranking all enemies of the Dark Souls, of like everything, but this time we will be doing Dark Souls 1. And I believe I had, well, doesn't matter. We will now be ranking, there we go, every enemy slash boss out of Dark Souls 1. So, what is the first enemy? The Abyss Guard. Oh, really? I mean, I guess. I didn't uh, understand what it was. Okay. They're, in and of itself, they're fine. Let's, okay, let's first talk about my ranking. What I'm trying. I want to rank them from 2 points of view. The first is how fun they are to fight. Like, how is the encounter, or how are the encounters structured in general, and what type of enemy are you going to fight, like, along with the specific enemy or boss. I'm going to kind of try to figure out if it's fun or if it's not fun, and the lore is slightly important to me, but not that much. For some, but it's not going to be something I will not mention it if it's not important, basically. So let's start. The Abyssal Guard. They do way too much damage. Like, they kind of one or two shot you almost always. And especially the part before the chained prisoner, they are so annoying. There's like 4 of them placed, which just makes it really frustrating to fight them. Um, I personally really don't like fighting them a lot, even though they don't have that hard of moves, but they're just they're deprived. That's all I can say. Artorias, the Abyss Walker. I love the boss. I loved it before I fought it the first time. After I fought it the first time, I was a little disappointed. But he's probably like one of the harder bosses in Dark Souls 1. He has cool moves and he looks pretty nice, especially when he chains his fucking front flip. That can catch people off guard because it is just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I like the boss. It's he's a Lord of Cinder. I think that is decent. His lore is amazing and he's fun to fight. Um, Now there comes something that is just boring and has been repeated over all the series for like hundreds of fucking times, and that is the Asylum Demon. Fighting him the first time around, I mean, at some point I decided to punch him to death, which was pretty fun, I gotta admit. Punching that weird, annoying beast to death was pretty fun. But he is not special. Like, his encounter is fine. It doesn't do that much. So, eh. He's he's like he's not a bad boss. So let's just say he's unkin. Yeah, he's not that great. He has no lore. He's just the Boulder Knight. Um, I actually don't mind fighting them, but they are annoying because they have like a relatively well-made thing, well-made moveset. They can punish you if you just try to parry fish, but you can also just backstab them. The worst thing about them is probably that they can parry you, which makes them really annoying early on. Like, new players will struggle, and they're relatively tanky for the point where you encounter them. So I would probably say they're actually above the Asylum Demon in terms of challenge, also because they tend to walk around in groups. No, they don't. They tend to walk around alone. But I can still put up a decent fight, especially when they parry you. But it's probably still not killed. Banshee. I don't know. They're really. If it depends. have you used the transient curse? Well, I don't know. I really dislike running around there. They're like hollowed. The entire area is just annoying. The enemy itself is fine. It's yeah, it's fine. It's not great. It's not terrible. But it's I don't know. Basilisks. Hmm. They're you need them to farm if you want a Grave Lord Covenant. Other than that, well, if they curse you, which they will probably curse you at least once, that is really punishing and really frustrating. And there's not a lot of vendors from which you can buy like curse rocks or anti-curse rocks. So that definitely makes them really annoying, especially because they run around in groups, and if you don't have high curse resistance, they are really quite punishing. I have not been cursed that many times, but honestly, if you encounter them in the sewers and like you fall down there, it can easily happen that you get cursed. Like, that's something that might actually happen. So they actually rich, rich. I a brain doesn't want to brain. The Batwing Demons. Nothing to say about them. Honestly, they are. You don't really fight them. I think every experienced player kind of just runs past them because there's only like 3 in the game. No, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe. Yeah, 6, maybe 7. Um, they're kind of just there. They can hit you in the back with like their lightning stuff if you run past them. That's basically it. Like, nothing to say. They're fine. They're just kind of there. Bed of Chaos. I think we all agree that this is an outer god-like boss. No, just kidding. It's cursed as fuck. Whoever made this should be fired. I mean, they probably are not there anymore. The Bale Gargoyles. I like that boss. It's a well-designed boss. It's the first roadblock for new players. It's fun to fight, and you can use a lot of mechanics on them. You can use items, you can use cut the stagger when you cut off their tail, you can do all sorts of things. So I think the Bell Gargoyles deserve a well-earned spot at Hunter, which is no. Let's actually put them to Tarnish. They're not A, B, C, or D. I mean, yeah, they're relatively high up. They're the first major boss for most players, but they don't have. I don't know. Also, have to keep in mind if you play it a lot of times, what is a boss that is still a fun challenge, and what is a boss that just kind of becomes a speed bump. And the gargoyles are more of a speed bump. Black Dragon Calamite. He's well-rounded challenge that can still fuck me over if I fight him to this day. Because his fire attacks are really, really punishing. And so he's really hard. So I think he earns a spot beside Artorias of the Abyss at the Lord of Cinder category. Let's see. The Black Knights. I love fighting them. They're great. You can just parry them, and you kind of have to parry them. They're basically just a tool to teach the player 2 things. Actually, 3 things. The first thing is, you don't have to fight every enemy you see. The second thing is, parrying is really good. And the third thing is backstep fish everything. And an enemy as a learning tool, I think, is a really nice idea. Also, on top of that, they drop like the best weapons in the game when it comes to like the first run through the game. So all in all, they're really great. They're not that challenging, at least if you know how to parry, but I think they're really good. So they have a really high place, especially in my heart. The blow dart snipers just fuck off. They're just cursed. I hate them. They curse you, they hit you like once, then you're toxic, and that's just really annoying. There's not that many and they don't respawn, but the fact that they exist is just annoying, and I don't like them in the game. The bone towers. There's not many in the game. There's like, I think 8 or something, probably even less. But they drop Titanite chunks. But I don't know. They're okay. They're fine. They're like average. No, they're below average, honestly. Kind of don't do that much. The bounding demons of Lost Izalith. I don't know. I have rarely fought them. They don't drop that much. They drop like 5,000 souls, I believe, and that's it. They kind of just exist. No one fights them. If you want to fight them, they just jump on top of you. They're also not that well designed, so yeah. The rockworms. I think they're in the same general area as the bone towers. They don't do that much. There's not that many in the game in the first place, and they kind of just wiggle around like a cock, and that's kind of it. I don't know. The Capra Demon. Is there a second Capra Demon? Because there's like the Capra Demon boss and just yeah. Whatever. The Capra Demon. His encounter is fucking annoying. I hate it. I usually try to cheese him, which is fine. Let's just put it enriched and call it a day. The dogs just make the fight really annoying. You need to put on poise, and if you don't have that, well, yeah. Ceaseless diarrhea. Ceaseless discharge. This is again the boss where it kind of depends. Do you know how to do the cheese? Yes or no? If you know how to do the quick kill, it's not really a boss. It's just kind of a glorified walking simulator, which is below average, honestly. But he rewards a lot of souls, but he's really easy to fight. Overall, I think Ceaseless Discharge deserves like same as the rockworms. If you don't know how to do the cheese, he's probably more challenging. But even then, like, it's not the most hard. It's not the hardest fight you can imagine. Centipede Demon. If he closes the distance, it's fine. If he keeps standing in the lava and just does this weird arm attack, I find it quite annoying. So, I don't know. He's probably there somewhere. He's not that fun to fight either. Chained Prisoner. Let's think for a second. A Chained Prisoner is like a last defender of the bonfire to the abyss. And he has cool moves. You can't really parry him, I believe. He's a little wonky, but he's fun to fight. And he's also like well designed. And there's only one in the game, which just is kind of interesting. But then everyone kind of runs past him, I think. Let's overall give him a hunter as like a challenge rating. Since he's not that easy to fight, but he's also like there's one and you can just run past him. Chaos Bug. Well, in terms of encounter or usefulness, Chaos Bugs are kind of like cursed. They don't do that much. But, and this is very important, they drop the not the sun, the Sunlight Maggot drops the Sunlight Hat, which is great, and I love it. I actually sometimes prefer using that over other things. So I would actually say that the Chaos bug itself is kind of useless, but since one of them dropped something and you need it for the quest of Torius, not Torius, Solaire, I would actually say they're... I know, I don't know, they're wretched. They're still fun, cool, they're useful, but they're not challenging. I don't know. And I will just put them at Hunter because they're useful, not because they're hard. Because it's just a fucking bug on the floor. The Chaos Eaters. If you jump into them, they break your stuff. That is not something anyone has ever done, I believe, except for me, because I wanted to see what happens. As a challenge, well, you kind of just... There's a few in the game, but like one of them no one will ever fight. And like the encounter where you drop down with Siegmeyer, that is where it gets hard or annoying because there's a lot of them. So overall, I would actually say they are average or maybe even below. There's not that many in the game. Let's put them there and that's fine. Chaos Witch Quelaag. Quelaag is a good boss. Well designed. Decent moveset. The challenge early on is relatively high, I believe. But once you know how to fight her, she gets easy. But that is something you can say about every boss. But the ease of execution, if you know how to fight the boss, is still not that high. She's not a Torius level, but she is similar to the Black Knights and Gargoyles in the sense of she's definitely a roadblock, but she kind of turns into a speed bump once you are decent at the game. I think this is the forest guys. They're nice for farming, and they're cool to have like a really shitty PvP encounter. I'm not sure. Let's put them at Hunter because they're good for farming, and the encounter can be fun as well. The Chaos bug thingy, I don't know. Let's put it at... Yeah, around there. Priscilla. Priscilla has nice lore, but her boss fight is really boring. Like, fighting her is just kind of doing nothing and then hitting her. Also, if you one-shot her, you softlock yourself. But the lore is pretty nice. The boss itself is pretty boring. Put her at Hunter, and that's fine. She's also a live Hunter, so yeah. The Crow Demons. To be fair, they're really tanky, but I have never really fought a lot of them, except in like my 100% place, 100% run. Because you don't need to fight them. You kind of just need to fight them if you need souvenirs of Appraiser. And that kind of puts them into I have rarely fought you territory, which is kind of like wretched. Not because they're necessarily bad, but they don't do that much. It's just they're in a gank and that's it. Crystal Golems. I have nothing to say about them except that they exist. They're not hard to fight, but they are kind of like boring. The Crystal Guard, I love parrying him, but he does a lot of damage and is relatively tanky. He's kind of similar. The thing is, like, he shows up really late and in a really shitty hallway. The placement makes him challenging, but he itself isn't challenging. So let's put them together with the forest guards because I think that is the fairest one. Crystal lizards. Clear outer god. Because they give you upgrade materials. You know, there's nothing more I have to say about them. Upgrade materials are the goat. They're just poggers as fuck. Gwyndolin, the femboy boss. Ah. I don't know. I think he's quite annoying because he always teleports back. Yes, I did. I finished all of them. I played through all of them as well. Obviously, if I finished them. I love them. They're my favorite games. So yeah, I decided to rank all of the enemies. I have only played through Demon Souls once though, because yeah, not easy access, I guess. The femboy boss. Gwyndolin is not hard, but his orbs can be really annoying. Bloodborne. Bloodborne is by far my favorite, I believe. I think it's the best out of all of them. My second favorite is probably, I don't know, Dark Souls 2 or Elden Ring. I also like. The thing with Bloodborne is it's just the world building is amazing. Every weapon is just useful and fun, except the fucking gun spear. And it's just, I love it. And the DLC is obviously one of the best DLCs they ever made. And that overall just makes it like my favorite game of all time. The hardest or the easiest? I think the easiest is probably Dark Souls 1 at this point, because there's a lot of OP shit in the game, like OP weapons, OP stuff, and it's also easier to access than Demon Souls. Also, Demon Souls has a lot of gimmick bosses that you can't really like do easy, but Dark Souls 1 has, yeah, I would say Dark Souls 1 is probably the easiest at this point. The hardest? Well, for newcomers, it's probably actually Sekiro, because the fighting style is different. You can't just press dodge all the time. You need to learn the timings and then punish. But in general, maybe also Elden Ring could also be like the hardest. Especially because everything in Elden Ring just kind of roll catches you and punishes you really hard. But I would say Elden Ring is easier than Sekiro and stuff, because you can just overlevel yourself. You can do a lot of things before you need to fight any given boss. While in more linear Souls games, such as Sekiro, you kind of are forced to fight the boss because there's not much else to do. Sure, there's branching paths, but you will never overlevel yourself. So I would say Sekiro is probably the hardest, and Dark Souls 1 is probably the easiest. Bloodborne is also one of the harder ones, I believe, because it kind of requires different mindset. The dodging is different, you can parry more easily and more stuff, and you kind of need to juggle more things, I believe. But yeah, I think that would be what I think is the easiest and hardest. Yeah, I'm not saying it's an easy game. I'm just saying it's probably the easiest out of the Souls series. It's still a hard game, don't get me wrong. Especially if you play it the first time. But I would, okay, let's say it this way. If you play through all of them like 2 times, then Dark Souls 1 you will have the least amount of issues playing again. While in a game like Sekiro, you will still see new moves or maybe discover new enemies and stuff like that. While in Dark Souls 1, they don't have that many moves on average. Funny that I'm talking about Dark Souls 1 here. Like, the most complex boss is probably Manus, and the second most complex boss is either Artorias or Calamite, and those are all DLCs. And from the main game, I don't know, most bosses don't have that many moves and aren't that difficult once you know the trick, so to say. Also, if you have the Black Knight Halberd, you two-shot basically everything. Talking about two-shotting everything, Gwyndolin is... he's similar to Priscilla in the sense of not really a challenge, more like annoying. He can catch you off guard with his beams that fly through fucking walls. But yeah, my favorite game is Bloodborne, so I can't wait to finally rank Bloodborne in a while. Yeah, Bloodborne is still takes a bit. First is Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3 is also one of the easier games, I believe. But again, you kind of need to know what you're doing. Dark Wraiths. They're fun to parry. Not that hard. Like, if you don't know how to parry, they are very difficult. If you know how to parry, they're easy work. Since they're usually alone, I believe, except like 2 of them. That gives them a solid Black Knight scaling, I believe. These 2 are just a showcase of the Hornet Ring. So, similar to the Crystal Guy and all the NPCs, really. A Drake. You can farm them for scales. Other than that, they don't really serve a use. They're just kind of really annoying. I don't like fighting them with the weird electricity everywhere. It's just not my favorite, especially farming them. Also, you have to run past them to get to RTSR, so that altogether gives them like Centipede Demon vibes, so they can just be annoying. Usually they're fine, so that's okay. The Egg Carrier. Apart from the fact that they don't do anything if you don't like attack them, they are not that dangerous. The maggots are the danger, not this enemy. So I don't know. Yeah, they can give you the egg hit, but the chance that that happens is basically 0. So let's put them to curse because they look cursed as fuck as well. The weird Growth Hollow. You know, the first time I killed them, I was standing inside of one and I got fucking toxic and then died. I think that is the difficulty about those. That if you are AFK, you die. And they can blow fire at you. Which flies oddly fast. I believe it's the fastest fireball in the game. But I think the problem is if you one-shot them, you get fucking toxic. Or if you kill them in general. Which gives them a nice... I don't like fighting them, but I also don't mind it that much vibe, which is similar to all the others. The evil plants. They're there. There's like 4 of them, I believe, in the game. No, there's more than 4. There's way more. But I kind of just designed as an ambush enemy and don't do that much other than that. They're not that hard to fight because you can't parry them, I guess. Let's put them under Unkilled and call it a day. Also, if you have any questions, ask, or anything you want to talk about. I like talking about other things. The Infernal Dogs. Apart from the fact that once again there's not that many in the game, they are not... Their encounter is annoying because if you fall down, they will kill you. They do a huge amount of damage and a lot of stagger damage. That just gives me... they're just annoying. The Four Kings! I don't know, they're just a DPS test. Similar to other bosses in the later series. But they are not... I mean, they have decent moves and they're decently long. I personally don't mind fighting them. It's not great, it's not terrible. If you have more than one on screen, they can kind of fuck you over. But in terms of challenge, they're kind of like similar to other bosses that you fight before. I also try to, the thing is I try to also put them where I think, like if a player encounters them at the point in the game where they're supposed to encounter them, that is what I'm trying to rank it as. I'm not trying to say, okay, the player has the best equipment and is in end game mode. If it's an early game boss, of course, then it's easy. Trying to gauge, like, if it's a level, I don't know, 70 boss or enemy, and I will try to think about what a level 70 player would be using. Just so that my thought process is a little easier to understand. The frog rays. Honestly, haven't only fought them like 2 or 3 times. They're not terrible. They're kind of other useless bosses. Gaping Dragon. Can be a glorified speed bump or just destroy destroy you, depending on what, if you kill the channeler or not. So that is similar to like the Four Kings and other things. Ghosts, I hate them. Fuck off. The giant cat, no. They're just, I hate them. I think no one likes to fight them. They're completely optional and you will probably never fight them if you don't search for them, but yeah. Humanities, they do contact damage. Why the fuck do they do contact damage in a game where you can't gauge distant easily? I don't know, but that puts them into wretched. I don't like fighting them. You also don't really fight them. They're good for farming humanities, but ironically they don't drop humanities that often. The giant slug, or giant leech, they're good because you can farm green titanites, and other than that they have literally no use, so yeah. The mosquitoes, I find them quite annoying, but they're fine. The giant skeletons. They can kick you, which is all I can say, really. What? Giant? Oh yeah, right, there's giants in the game. I forgot because they're so unmemorable. Giants are fun to fight, not that hard. Similar to the giant skeleton, I believe, in the sense of they have complex moves, but they're not that hard to fight. Grave Lord Nito. I don't know if he's around as challenging as like other big skeletons. Sure, there's like big skeletons in the boss, but you don't need to trigger them. And also you can just kind of make him kill his own enemies, his own minions. He's easier than the Four Kings, in my opinion. Giant Wolf Sif. He has great lore, but he's not hard to fight. Actually, he's probably on the level of an Asylum Demon, honestly. Because he's just, I don't know, you just kind of run towards him, and when he does anything, you just roll into him, and that's it. That is how you fight him, which is anything, really. The Great Store Knight. I mean, they are... Let me drink something. They can be quite annoying if you decide to fight them, but since you don't have to fight them, you kind of just run past them most of the time. They are probably around there. because they are can do a lot of damage really easily. Lord of Cinder, Gwyn. Gwyn is kind of just... The thing is, he's hard if you don't know how to parry, but if you know how to parry, he's just boring. But he's cool. I like him. Hollow. The Hollow is probably part of all the enemies that are there. Don't really do much. And you can just ignore them. The barbarians in the entrance of Blighttown. I think they're not barbarians, they're miners, I believe. But I don't know, I never really fight them, I kind of just run past them. So I can't really say anything. The ghouls itself are fine. Kind of around deprived. I mean, they are literally deprived, probably. Iron Golem. Some people struggle with him. I would say he's around same as most other bosses. He's okay. He's not... Yeah, I don't know. He's average. King Jeremiah, the Pyromancer god. He's fun. He has a cool hat. He's better than most NPC. Like, I don't know. He's better than most NPC invaders. Other than Kirk. Kirk is just, can you parry me or not? The clams. They're good for farming. They can enter Thief's boss room though, which makes it really frustrating. Yeah, they're unkindled. Manserpent. They're the first actually tanky enemies in the game, and they're the first like biggest spike, I believe. Also, they're a normal enemy that's really tanky, and fighting them can be rather annoying if you are the first time around. So I would actually say they are similar to like Tarnished. Mildred. Mildred is the first NPC invader that you will encounter if you are human and you play like and you do a normal whatever. It's not no matter. Mildred is not that hard, you can just parry her, but she's like the first, which I would argue kind of elevates her, because a player that kind of fumbles around will probably... Menace. Menace is easy a demigod. I like fighting him, he's really hard. It's probably the hardest boss out of Dark Souls 1, so if anyone deserves that spot, it's him. Small, where's Ornstein? Whatever. Marvelous Jester. He sells items, which makes him already really helpful, but he doesn't sell that many that useful things. He also exists as an invader, which he has a kick that can be funny. But I would say he's like a hunter. He's literally a hunter. The big soul blob. Can give you annoying status effects and are usually paired with dark raves, which makes them actually kind of annoying if you decide to fight them. But in and of itself, they're kind of just not that special, I would say. Mimics! I like mimics. Mimics are not that hard, but they're definitely fun to fight. Moonlight Butter doesn't fly. Moonlight Butterfly is just similar to mosquitoes. He's just a mosquito. Like, if you are a melee build, you will just spend the entire time dodging 3 attacks. And if you are a range build, he will probably die before he does like 3 attacks. So, yeah. Fun. The mushroom parents. I like them. easily a Lord of Cinder when it comes to damage, but they only have like 2 moves. That's kind of it. So, yeah. The Necromancer gets a deprived for me because I hate them and they revive skeletons. They can drop the Skull Lantern, but they have a really low chance, or you have to kill all of them, which, let's be honest, no one ever does. So, yeah. The Oolacile Residency. They're easier than these guys, but kind of understand that. They are usually paired with them as well. I mean, it's also a DLC. Ornstein. Well, I guess I will combine Ornstein and Super Ornstein here. Because I have to, I think. Yeah. Ornstein itself is not that hard. The reason it's hard is because it's Ornstein and Smough. But in and of itself, they're both kind of really weak. So let's just put them together and treat them as one boss. It's a good boss. It's a well-made boss. It's fun. It's can also be very frustrating, but hey, that is just how it goes. So let's just put them together and call it a day. Also, they're like the famous duo that has been tried to be replicated in Dark Souls 2 for like 5 to 6 times, so yeah. Oscar of Astora. He is important as a character in the lore and stuff, but he kind of he literally turns hollowed, but he's not hollowed. He's, I don't know, he's part of the enemies that are just kind of there and you can either run past them or just punch them to death. But they can be annoying. Can't be annoying, but you get the point. Painted Guardians, well, I have to rank them relatively high because you fight them on the railings, not railings, the rafters of Anor Londo, which just elevates them really high. Paladin Leroy can solo Pinwheel, which is pretty cool, and also makes him really fun to use. Talking about Pinwheel, I don't think Pinwheel is here anywhere. Don't know what the fuck this is. Taurus Demon. Oh, Crystal Soldier. Ah, this is supposed to be Pinwheel. Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, Paladin Leroy is pretty cool. He is really strong. Let's put him at a... He's a Lord of Cinder. What? Can't read that, I'm sorry. Parasitic Wallhugger. He protects power within, which is one of the more important spells in the game. But he himself will just one-shot you and kind of is really fucking frustrating to fight. So let's put him along with other things, because he is really difficult if you don't, like if you try to kill him in melee combat, you will probably die. The Phalanx. They're great for farming, actually. But other than that, they're kind of not special. These ones have a great lore. Other than that, I would actually put them the same as other enemies that are just kind of exist. Pinwheel is just a glorified speed bump. So he's definitely an outer god. The tree is a tree. And that kind of makes him another enemy that kind of just exists because it's a tree. The Royal Sentinel, or Sentinels in general, I guess. Okay, this is new. Where do I put the Sentinels? You kind of don't have to fight them, which puts them into a fun spot of, hello, I am an enemy that you can just ignore, which is pretty much what he is. The Sanctuary Guardian. He's actually a decently well-made boss. He will probably stop you from going into the DLC early if you have not played the game before. The Snake guy. Well, she can one-shot you because she will give you bleed with like one attack, which makes it slightly stronger than the Serpent Man, but not quite the level of the Mushroom Parents. So it's Tarnished is a well-rounded spot for this guy. Seath the Scaleless. I don't know, the boss is kind of just running towards him, attacking, running away, running towards him, attacking and running away. How does that sound? Well, it sounds exactly like Nito. So he's pretty much at Nito's level. Silver Knights. I would actually put them into the same category as Black Knights, honestly. They are very similar. Baby skeletons, I don't know. They are I don't know. They're not cursed, they just exist. Oh, those are slimes, I believe. Slimes are very tanky. I like skeletons, but they're still like... It becomes frustrating when they get revived over and over again. This skeleton is single-handedly one of the most OP fucking skeletons in the entire game, because it can just kind of push you easily, even if you go there really late in the game. Slimes. I don't like fighting slimes. They're not dangerous by any means, but they're certainly tanky for what they are, which puts them at a decent spot of running away and coming back, or just parry, or kind of like existing. The... Can't read that. The fire demon, the demon statue. Where do we put the demon statue? Well, since they're usually in groups, you kind of either have to kill them or you run past them. But other than that, they don't do that much except block your path. So they're just a glorified speed bump with extra steps, I believe. But they are less frightening than the Royal Sentinels, and that puts them at a decent spot of Wretched, which just is kind of, hello, I'm annoying. The Stone Guardians, on the other hand, are very similar to Snake Eyes in the sense that they're really tanky and really punishing, because they can destroy you by just punching the floor and just ripping out the floor and everything explodes. The Channeler, they're funny. I like the generals, but yeah. The only annoying thing about them is that they can teleport and shoot at you all the fucking time, which just makes it stupid. The Taurus Demon. I like Taurus Demon. Taurus Demon is a really well-made first boss. He's not amazing by any means, and you can definitely one-shot him if you use a Zweihander at +5 Lightning Resin. But yeah, he's a good first boss, I believe. And I think that puts him at a decent spot together with the Gargoyles. Yes, I believe that's a good spot for him. The Gardeners of Ulysses. I just run past them. That can be frustrating if you don't have any poise, because they attack really rapidly. So I would actually put them at a spot right beside the slime. No, right beside other enemies that are kind of similar in the sense of they can annoy you because you kind of need to kill them, but they're not that hard to kill. The tree lizard. I don't know, he's a tree. Similar to the other tree. Honestly, I don't fight those that much, so I can't say that much about them, honestly. The Hollows. Or the Undead Assassins, I believe they're called. One alone is not that hard. But since they always appear in like groups of at least two, it can be frustrating. Also, they have a weird habit of backstabbing you from the front. And you encounter them really early, which gives them a decent challenge rating, I would say. Because they're before Capra Demon and they can just punish you for playing bad, which can be really bad, pun intended. And the dog. I would put the dogs to the same challenge rating as the undead assassins, because they also kind of appear the same point. And dogs are just always frustrating in these games. The Crystal Hollow. Although they are hollows, they are kind of harder than normal hollow, so I need to figure out where I put the hollow and put them one above that. Did I even rank hollows yet? I think I did, yeah, hollow. So they are unkilled. They're not. The thing is, you kind of need to kill them, because otherwise you will be overwhelmed. Actually, no, that's a lie. You don't have to kill them, but I would probably recommend that you kill them if you don't know where you're going. Vagrants. I have only discovered like 3 vagrants in total, I believe. So not that many. I think 2 of them were friendly vagrants and 1 was a hostile vagrant. Like, not talking about mods or anything. And the vagrants, I like them. They're really, really cool idea, which puts them at a similar point as Crystal Lizards. They're really cool, but they're not that like hard. The maggots. They're just annoying. That's it. There's like they spawn like 8 of them and then they just crawl towards you and try to eat your fucking feet. Bone wheels. Well, bone wheels are clearly as overpowered as manas, because they are. If you try to fight them, you will most likely die. Especially in Dark Souls 1, they nerf them in every other game. And then we have the final enemy of Dark Souls 1, the Wisp. Where do we rank the Wisp? I would say Wisps are another enemy that's kind of there. There's a few spots where you actually need to watch out that you don't explode in your fucking face. But overall, they're similar to humanities. They're kind of there and then they explode. So yeah, this has been my ranking of all the Dark Souls 1 enemies and bosses. Tell me in the comments if I forgot anything, and yeah. Let's reset this. And call the stream a day, because I will not rank the others just now. I will do that at another point. Next time we will be talking about Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3. Probably. If I have the time. But thank you for watching and bye bye.